Hi there, it's Helen from the Knit Kit Company. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about some of our blankets because people have been asking me questions about some of the patterns, so I just wanted to explain a few little things. When you get your pattern for either the India blanket or the sky blanket or even the rainbow blanket, I couldn't quite fit it on here, there you go. They're all quite similar in their construction, but there's a few things that you need to understand before you get started. So I'll just explain quickly and we can get on to dealing with some of your questions. With the India blanket and the sky blanket and the rainbow blanket, you're actually starting from one corner and you're knitting outwards like a triangle until you get to the middle, and then you decrease until you get to the end. So you're knitting that way. So you only start off with one stitch and you finish off with one stitch. So a few people have asked just about how they know how much to knit, how many rows to knit. It's actually not important. It's just important that you use your yarn wisely on the journey. So my advice is to weigh your yarn balls before. So you'll have, in all of the kits, you will have 6 yarn balls. Take off the labels, weigh them, and depending on your project, use the lightest colour balls, the ones that weigh the least, in the first half of your blanket, so when you're starting. That means that your second half of your blanket, you should have more than enough yarn to finish off the project. Otherwise, if you're not able to do that, or you think that that's a bad idea for whatever reason, then I would make sure that every time you change colours, that you leave a really decent amount of yarn, you know, a good 3 or 4 meters, so that on your decrease section you have got enough yarn to finish off your project. So that should help, and that should help explain how the structure of these blankets are made. It's really nice and easy. You don't need to count rows. All you need to do is just keep going until you're halfway and then decrease. So a few people have asked about some early on in the pattern. You'll see here it says cast on 1 stitch. Often people have said, is that the stitch that you just put on your needle at the beginning, so your slip knot? And that is correct. So I've already got a little knot here. I'm going to stick it on my needle. There we go. So this is how all these patterns start. They all start off with casting on 1 stitch in your colour. So this is stitch number 1. Put that on the wrong way again. There we go. So the next thing you need to learn is how to knit front and back, KFB. So that's actually nice and simple, and this is what you're going to use all the way through your blanket to do the increases, which will take you towards the middle. As you can see, my needle wire is quite curly, but as you knit more, it'll become less curly and less annoying. So to knit front and back, this is what we're going to do. So you go into your stitch. I'm just trying to get the camera to focus. Go into your stitch as if you're going to knit normally. Take your yarn round, knit a stitch, but instead of slipping it off like you would normally do, take your right hand needle and insert it back into the stitch at the back, knit again, and this time you pull it off the needle. So you've gone from 1 stitch to 2 stitches. That's your knit front and back. So as you can see in the pattern, at the end here in brackets it says 2 stitches. That tells you how many stitches you should have on your needle, and as you can see, we've got 2. So now that moves us on to row 3, which is knit front and back, then knit 1. So let's do that again. So we're going into this first stitch and we're going to knit front and back. So we go in to knit as normal, pull it out but don't pull it off, stick the needle back in that stitch at the back, take your yarn, wrap it round, knit it and pull that stitch off. And then the instruction says to knit 1, knit and pull it off. So now you can see, as it says in the pattern, we should have 3 stitches on our needle, which is what we have. The next instruction is knit front and back and then knit 2. So let's do that one. So we're going to knit front and back with this first stitch. Stick your needle in, go to knit, pull it out but don't pull it off, stick your right hand needle into the back loop. When you're doing it yourself, you'll see this will make a lot of sense. Into back loop, knit, and take that one off. And then the instructions say to knit 2. So we're going to knit 1 and knit 2. And we've got 4 stitches on our needle now, which is what we should have. So then you continue on with this pattern, knit front and back, then knit 3, knit front back, knit 4. And then you move on to row 6, which is knit 2, knit front and back, and then knit to end. And then that becomes the repeat that you do all the way through the pattern until you get halfway there. So hopefully that little bit of instruction there about the knit front and back has been helpful. We're just going to do it one more time. So the instructions are knit front and back. Here we go. And then knit 3. 1, 2, 3. So now we have 5 stitches. And as you can see, this is growing our blanket. So it's growing it from that one stitch and it's growing and growing all towards the middle. So again, knit front and back. And then knit 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We should have 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we're on row 6, and this is the bit that will just keep you going for the remainder of your blanket to the halfway point. So we have to knit 2, 1, 2, and then the instruction says to knit front and back. So we go in, pull it out, knit front and back. So we've made 2 stitches out of that one stitch, and then knit to the end. 1, 2, 3. And then that row is the one that we're going to copy all the way to the middle. So as you can see, we've already started forming a little triangle. So yes, so hopefully that helps, and we'll move on to some more tips shortly. Thank you.